Hey everyone, Adam from Builders here. Today I'm going to show you how to make 3-2-1 ribs. So a couple things you're going to need is, of course, your ribs, some honey, a seasoning. I prefer the Traeger poultry, one of my favorites for ribs, some butter, or liquid gold as I like to call it, your sauce. This can be anything that you want. It just depends on what kind of flavor you're trying to go for. We'll be using the sweet heat today. You need some apple juice, not this much, only about 1/4 cup. And brown sugar. Probably around a cup. It just kind of depends on how many ribs you're doing and how big they are. Some optional things that you might need is a large cutting board and some sharp knives. The reason why we're going to do this today is I have purchased some pork spare ribs, and there's a lot of extra meat here that we're going to cut off, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay, so one of the first things that we're going to do here is we're going to flip our ribs over, and on the back of the ribs there is this membrane called silver skin. We don't want that. That's going to make your ribs really tough to eat. So what we're going to do is get something sharp and just kind of go underneath. Find a spot here where you can get underneath this silver skin. Just kind of pry it up so you can get your finger in there. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take a paper towel, because this is slippery. We're just going to work it to get the silver skin off. Just like that. If there's any loose pieces of fat, we just kind of try to rip that off. And that looks good. So next thing here, we're going to take our spare rib. We're just going to trim this little flap off the back here. Like that. This you could just get rid of, throw away. Next step is we're going to make this into what you would traditionally see kind of at a restaurant for ribs. They don't have all this extra meat on there. So we're going to find the largest bone on this rack. And we're basically just going to cut a diagonal line all the way across. That's why you're going to need a big sharp knife, because there is some gristle in here that you're going to need to try to cut through. So luckily I've got a pretty sharp knife here. That makes it pretty easy to cut off. You don't have to throw this part away. There's a lot of good meat on here. You could trim this meat off. Your rib tips are right in here. So you can do a lot of things. Today we're not going to cook that, but definitely don't throw it away. There is good meat. You can throw it right on, do the same recipe as we're doing right now on the ribs. So make sure you keep that. Next thing we're going to do is just kind of take any of this loose stuff that's kind of hanging off and cut it off. You don't need that to interfere with your seasonings. Once you got that, now if you want to do a traditional St. Louis style, then you would actually just square up both these edges here. That's what a lot of the people in competitions do, but for what we're doing today, we're not really going for the looks, we're going for the taste. So we're just going to leave it just the way it is right now. Next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to just flip this over. We're going to start on the back here. And we're going to season it with our pork and poultry. Just get a nice, good, even coating along the back. It's good to put it on your sides here as well. Okay, once you got that, we're going to flip it over. We're going to do the same thing on the top. We're going to get it a good coating on there. It's going to give us a nice crust on the top. It's going to be our good flavor too. Once you got a nice coating on it, so you can't really see the ribs, you're just going to let this set for about 15 minutes. So while you're letting it set, you can go out to your Traeger and set it on smoke. Okay, now that we've preheated our Traeger to 165 degrees, we're going to put these on. I'm just going to put it on the bottom rack. Slide them in there. And now we're going to leave this on smoke for 3 hours. Get a nice wood-fired flavor on them. Alright, well now we've smoked these ribs for 3 hours. Next step we're going to do is we're going to wrap them. So I've already got my tin foil laid out. I've got my big thing of brown sugar. Each rack of ribs is going to get 1/4 cup of apple juice. You'll be using your honey and the liquid butter. Alright, so we're going to grab our first rack of ribs here. We're going to set it right in the middle of our tin foil. We're going to take our brown sugar. We're going to give it a nice layer on top. It's going to help us get a nice little caramelization, nice color to it. So once you get just a good little layer of brown sugar on there, kind of pat it down a little bit. Then we're going to come in with our liquid butter. We're just going to squeeze that right on there. And we're come back through with our honey. Just drizzle honey on. Now we got that side done. We're going to flip these over and do the same exact thing on the back side. This side you probably won't use as much brown sugar, with just a nice little even coat. Once again, go back with your butter. And your honey. After that, we're going to just take the sides here and try to make it like almost like a little bucket. So what we're going to do is take our apple juice, or put a little bit on the top, and then on both sides we'll put the rest. Like I said, that's 1/4 cup. We're going to grab it in the middle. We're just going to fold it over on itself so we get it nice and tight. We don't want a whole lot of room in there because that'll cause a lot of steam and that'll basically be boiling your ribs. That's not what we're looking for. We're just looking to let these ribs just marinate in that honey, butter, and apple juice mixture to just help finish them off a little bit. So now once we got this done, we're going to put this back onto the Traeger at 225 for 2 hours. Alright, now that these have been on the Traeger for 2 hours wrapped, we're going to actually take them out of there. You're going to have a lot of extra liquid in there, so you're going to want to drain it. And after you do that, you're going to set it down. We're going to use our sauce, and we're going to sauce it and then throw it back on the Traeger for about 30 minutes, just enough to let it caramelize. And then you'll be good to go and ready to eat some really good ribs. Okay, now we're just going to take our sauce and we're going to put a nice coating all over the ribs. You can do as much or as little as you like. I prefer to go a little bit on the more side, just because the flavor you're going to get when you take a bite is just amazing. So once you've got everything all covered, you're going to take these and just put it back on the grill, set at 165 degrees for about 30 minutes. Alright, now these have been on here for the last 30 minutes, and here's your finished product. Now everything today was cooked on a Timberline 1300 grill. It's got double wall insulation all the way around, 3 racks. The bottom rack is adjustable, so if you want it down low for a little bit hotter, you can go up one more and smoke. It's also got the Wi-Fi controller here. Right now it's telling me I need to add pellets because I'm running low. You can do everything, control everything from here, from your smartphone, as long as it's hooked up to your Wi-Fi. So we sell these at Builders. If you have any other questions, just come and check us out. Thanks.